Please join me in giving a big hand and welcoming Krishnan Ganesh on the stage, entrepreneur extraordinaire. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Please join us, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you, Venkatesh, for the very kind introduction. As usual, is more kind than right. So, which is fine. I'll take it with in all humility. No, it's really the MSME sector. You guys are the real backbone and entrepreneurs. I don't want to. I had 4 statistics about the MSME being the backbone, but unfortunately, at the beginning, all the 4 numbers in terms of exports and employment and the percentage of contribution to GDP, all that has been told, so I would not repeat it. We also know the challenges that exist in this particular space. I do teach at IIM Bangalore and Indian School of Business, so one of my bad habits is always asking questions. How many of you here have read A Tale of Two Cities? Who's the author, by the way? Yeah, Charles Dickens. Okay, right? So this is a bad. I do have, this is an annoying habit of asking questions. I'll do that more often. I do have some good habits, but people tell me rarely I exhibit it. So that's fine. Okay. If you remember The Tale of Two Cities, it starts with very iconic words. Okay, right? It's exactly. It says, well, it was the best of the times, it was the worst of the times. It was age of lightness, it was the age of darkness, all of that stuff, it contrasts. So that analogy or explanation can best apply to us today, okay, right? And I'm saying that after having lived through nearly 3.5 decades of entrepreneurship and doing my own business. At the time, it was not called entrepreneurship, it was called a business. I remember back in 1990 when I started my first business, the concept of valuation, venture capital, none of this really existed. So at that time, I left a job. It was with Hindustan Computers Limited, well-paying job, and decided to start, jump into entrepreneurship. There was a lot of challenges at that time. As it is today, different challenges. Firstly, my mother was very concerned that how am I going to meet? I'm leaving a good job. I actually had a car from the company I was working, so I had to return the car. I was living in Delhi. There's a telephone company had given. If you know, back in 1990, telephone is a luxury. There was a 20-year wait list. So the first 2 years of my business, I was without a telephone. Okay, right? So I did business there at that time. So my mother was very unhappy that this was going away. My mother-in-law was even more unhappy. Okay, right? She said, what has happened? Has he lost the job, or is he not well? Is he got some serious sickness? All of that stuff. Obviously, from that time of being an entrepreneur to now, we have come a very long way. So back to Charles Dickens' statement of we are best of the times and worst of the times. It's really today's opportunity that excites me. That's exciting for all of you and for me even today, looking at what's happening. What's really happening in the world today, okay, right? If I look at it in one word, the jargon that we use in management schools, again, like I said, I'll keep coming back with this habit of being a professor. We call this VUCA world. All of you have heard VUCA, VUCA. It stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, VUCA. We live in a VUCA world. It's okay, right? Now, that's a great acronym or jargon to say what is happening in the world today. But what's more important is that really gives us tremendous opportunity to go and conquer. When I started, again, back at that time, I'm sure many of you would have faced it to some level or the other. But definitely at that time, there was no concept of first-generation entrepreneurs. There was no concept of service businesses. At that time, any business means it was a license Raj. You needed to have a license. And business meant you needed to have a factory, you need to have a chimney, and smoke will come out of the chimney. Okay, right? That was the only concept of business. The service business, I mean, there were lawyers and chartered accountants, but that's about it. There was no other services business. Of course, now it's very, very different. The VUCA world is a great opportunity because it has democratized opportunities for all of us. All our businesses have challenges, but the opportunity today is 10 times the challenges that exist. What does VUCA world mean for us? That means everything is changing. When everything changes, it actually helps every person equally well. At that time when I started, you had to be a business family. Tatas, Birlas, conglomerates, Ambanis. You needed to get a license. You needed to be able to manage the environment, manage the bank, get a project financing done. All of those have gone to dogs completely. Today, 2 young people can start a business. You must have heard of Zepto, which is in the quick commerce, which competes. Because those guys not even just in their early 20s. Okay, valued at nearly $3.5 billion now. Okay. You don't have to be anything. So the VUCA world presents us opportunities because everything is changing. What do we mean by that? Competition is changing. Who is competition? Is completely undefined, right? And you obviously have seen Uber and Ola competing with car manufacturers for car. Why do you need a car? Or a Oyo competing, or a Make My Trip competing with standard travel agents. You take any examples, hotel chains versus Oyo, Swiggy, Zomato versus restaurants. Right? Take any example and you can see the competition is coming from everywhere, it's changing. Take the classic case of cars. My first job after my engineering was in Telco, what is now known as Tata Motors. Okay? It was unthinkable that an internal combustion engine, petrol diesel engine which is there for 100 years, centuries, will actually get challenged by electric vehicles. Which is the largest electric car manufacturer in the world? Anybody? BYD. Okay, BYD, Chinese company, stands for Build Your Dreams. What were they originally manufacturing? They were never a car manufacturer. See, till this time, till 10 years back, car competition came from car manufacturers of 100 years old. Honda, hardcore engineering company. Okay, right? That is not the case now. BYD was a battery manufacturer. They were in batteries. Why? Suddenly, after 100 years, the VUCA world said, cars are not really engines. Cars are battery on wheels. Okay. If they are battery on wheels, the competition is very, very different. Who is competing? Which company invented digital photography? Anybody? Digital photography. Kodak. Kodak was the inventor of digital photography, but it's nowhere there. Photography. Right? What is digital photography today? Any reasonable lens or camera, but with huge amount of software or AI. So where do you find the best pictures or most effective pictures? Samsung. Why? Is the Samsung phone, I use the Samsung phone. Does it have the best lens? No. But what is best about it? The software behind it. What is Tesla? Tesla calls it a AI software company. Completely software driven. It happens to have wheels. It happens to have it. It's really connected computers on wheels is what Tesla calls itself. Autonomous driving, self-driving, all of that. So that is changing. Consumers' expectations are changing. You and I know people want grocery in 10 minutes. I for once never understood why would anybody need grocery in 10 minutes. Here, in order to cross the road in Bangalore traffic takes 10 minutes. Okay, right? It takes 1 hour to cross Silk Board Junction. Okay, right? And if you are unfortunate to be living on the outer ring road near Marthalli, you are gone. But you want grocery in 10 minutes. Okay, right? Everything else. But that's reality. And honestly, even Big Basket, one of my companies were caught off guard. We never realized people will want grocery. Now they're fully leading the charge into quick commerce. The consumer expectations are changing. When I used to be in my first job and first years, when my Sundays used to be spent in going to the bank, because that was only a holiday, to deposit all the checks. Some 10 rupee, 20 rupee dividend check used to come. Used to go and deposit it and write faithfully on the counterfoil and get a passbook updated, compare my passbook with my counterfoil to see if the 10 rupees are credited. All of that was a Sunday routine. And some bank branches used to open on Sundays only for working people like me. Today, will anybody go to a bank branch? Would you reconcile your checkbook and passbook, everything is digital. So that is the world. And that gives us a phenomenal opportunity. So let me not talk about challenges about MSME. Let's talk about what does it mean for us to be able to seize the opportunity. Okay, right? Why do I seem very bullish for entrepreneurs in general, and MSME is a hardcore part of it. Don't get carried away by the glamour, valuation, Hindu Businessline, or all the media reports about unicorns, 1,000 crore, 10,000 crore valuation. Those are all outliers. Those are all handful. It's glamorous. They talk about it in front page. But real entrepreneurship comes from here, okay, right? In terms of percentage, in terms of jobs, in terms of numbers, except for the media attention, glamour, okay? The real core entrepreneurship is MSME. That's where it comes. What do I see as the future? Today, fortunately, all ducks are aligned in one order. That's why it's the best of the times really applies today. Right? What are the things that are driving in our favor? One, the enabling ecosystem is huge that has happened. All of you have heard of ONDC, right? ONDC, for example, digital public infrastructure. Just like early days, trade came up because the roads were available. Railroads were available, roads were available, infrastructure was available, people could do businesses. Same exact equivalent has happened in the digital public infrastructure or digital public good. Whether it's Aadhaar, eKYC, whether it's UPI, whether it's ONDC, all of that come under digital public good, digital public infrastructure. That is new. So one of the things I always look forward to is when I started this business, whether it's Big Basket, Bluestone, Home Lane, Portia Medical, or earlier Tuta Vista or Marketix, all of that. One of the things I look forward is what has changed now. So there are two things you ask. Whatever may have been your past business, whatever is your current business, and whatever are the challenges, there are only two things. What in next 10 years is going to change? More importantly, what is not going to change? What in 10 years is not going to change? That is where the opportunity is. Things have changed. Take, for example, Portia Medical, elder care. All of us are going to live longer and longer. My generation, I'm 62, is expected to live till 90s. The younger generation will cross 100 because of advancements in medicine, because of diagnosis, because of more awareness about health. 100. That's not going to change. What's not going to change? The last 10 years are going to get added. Will need disproportionate amount of healthcare. So can I build a business? Because that is certain. What is certain? Each and every one of us, almost every one of us, will live to 90s and 100, one. And during 90s and 100, we will need extraordinary support for daily activity of living. That's not going to change, okay, right? That's given. Unless we are fortunate enough to die suddenly earlier than that, we are going to unfortunately. So that's an opportunity. So what is not going to change? That's one. Two, enable digital public infrastructure. Can we build businesses on top of digital public infrastructure? Leveraging that. Two. Three, there are certain tailwinds or certain waves that's happening. Can we latch on to this? All of you must have heard when the railroads were being built, when the roads were being built, when railroads were being built in the US, people who made the maximum amount of money were not the railroad companies, were the people that were supplying to people who were building the railroad companies. Okay. The restaurants that came up, hiring of workers, the supply of workers. Same thing you must have heard of the standard story that when the gold rush was happening, who made money? People who are making the shovels. Okay, whether the gold is there or not there, don't know. 1,000 people are digging for the gold. Don't know whether out of 1,000, 5 will find or 10 will find. But all the 1,000 will need shovels to dig. So if you are making shovels, you are certain to win. So where is the wind blowing? Can you latch on to the wind? Can you actually supply to the wind? Take, for example, electric vehicles. In India, Tata Motors is leading the charge on electric vehicles. There are multiple electric vehicle manufacturers. There is four-wheelers, there are three-wheelers, there are two-wheelers, and it's going on. It's one game. If you want to play in that game, yes, Ather, Ola Electric, Tata Motors, and all that stuff. Other thing is, what does that mean? That means there is a huge opportunity for battery manufacturing. Okay, one. Two, supply for battery manufacturing. Okay. Now, I don't know who is going to win the electric vehicle war. I don't know whether it's going to be Tata or Maruti. I don't know whether it's going to be Ola Electric or Ather, but I don't have to bet on that. But I do know the number of vehicles is going to, electric vehicles is going to explode, number of batteries is going to explode, therefore battery manufacturers are going to explode. I can do battery manufacturing. I can do components and supplies to battery manufacturers. I can do component supply to electric vehicle manufacturer also, but also to battery manufacturers. It doesn't end there. There's one company which I'm an angel investor in. It's not my company. It's not my idea. I'm just a pure angel investor, which is called Battery Smart. It's not here. It's there in North. Battery Smart. They do battery swapping. So what have they done? Smart young entrepreneur. He has said, this is the way wind is blowing. Logistics, courier, everybody is using vehicles, electric vehicles, because it's cheaper to use. But they can't afford 16 hours of downtime to charge the battery, or 12 hours of downtime to charge the battery. So I'm going to provide battery swapping infrastructure. So he has opened, like petrol stations, he has opened battery swapping stations in NCR, for example, and many cities in the north side, example. So whether you are a porter, whether you are any of the delivery, shadow fax or anything, you can take your vehicle there within 2 minutes, just like filling petrol, give the battery, take the other battery and go. Okay. Brilliant idea, executed very well, largest battery swapping company, valued very, very nicely, just raised their third round of funding recently. That's a great example of derived, we call this derived demand. Don't go after gold rush, go after shovels. Okay, right? That's a huge opportunity. And the same logic, when it doesn't end with battery swapping, battery services, battery servicing. Two, batteries have a lifetime. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, based on how much usage and what battery you're talking about. Beyond that time, what's going to happen to the battery? Okay. There is a new law that has come up that people who are importing battery, who are dealing in battery, are responsible for disposal of battery waste. It's a government law. That again is a great opportunity, because how are they going to dispose? Okay. Now, there are industries abroad, not yet started in India, where they take this battery and then recycle the metals from the battery. Okay. It's a big industry, recycling and taking out. Okay. So not only it gives you the ability to dispose of the electronic waste, more importantly, recover from there, reuse some of them. So huge industry is there. It's going to come up because the first wave of batteries that are being used on electric vehicles, their life is starting to end now. So all those batteries, about 20% you can reuse, recycle. 80% of them have to be recovered, recycled and something recovered. And this will exponentially keep growing because of battery. Remember, we started with electric vehicles as an industry, gone on to battery as an industry, battery swapping as services and many services around that, to battery waste recycling and waste disposal, each of this. So that is a huge opportunity. ONDC is another one wherein government has made the ONDC interoperable protocol, democratized access. Before ONDC came in, for us MSMEs to be able to get the benefit of e-commerce would have been difficult. You needed to be a hugely, highly funded Flipkart or Amazon or Big Basket to take benefit of e-commerce. But today, we can actually, any of us, even the smallest of the trader, can latch on to ONDC. Remember, ONDC has got a lot of critics, but it's very early days. Just like Flipkart in the first 5 years, nobody believed e-commerce will work in India. Big Basket, I can tell you, when we started Big Basket, I went and pitched to 22 investors. Nobody even wanted to look at, they said, will buy grocery in India. Now, not only they are buying grocery, they demand 10-minute grocery. Okay, right? That's how it changes. So, for a smaller player, ONDC is a great boon to take advantage of e-commerce. So, that's an example. Similarly, for us to use software, earlier technology used to be very expensive. Now, SaaS is available. Take Freshdesk, take Zoho, take example. Those software are available for a small monthly subscription. So you and I can use it. We don't have to be a large enterprise to be able to afford a Microsoft or to be able to afford Oracle or SAP or anything like that. Today, it's on the go SaaS software available. So the amount of ecosystem available, whether it is digital public infrastructure, whether it is platforms like e-commerce or ONDC or software, all of that actually works in our favor. So what is my learning? And final words. Learning really is, the opportunity is huge. What you can't do is rest on the past laurels, because things have changed. Disruption is happening. It's happening at a faster pace. We are living in a VUCA world. Therefore, we need to understand what is happening and be agile, be learning, okay, right? And we need to learn from what's happening. One of the things is events like this, industry association. I mean, in software industry, at least NASSCOM as a body, we benefited a lot. So whether it is conclave like this, whether it is chambers of commerce, whether it is CII, whether it is networking, all of that will give you very different perspective to what's happening today. And even the sheer marketplace availability, the fact that today in India we can be part of a global network, we can be part of a global supply chain, we can supply components and parts to companies abroad on B2B marketplaces. All of that are huge opportunity. Earlier this was not there. During my first business, we were restricted to this geography. Internet itself was not there. Forget about going global. Just not possible. Today you can actually list, you can be discovered. I was speaking to a very interesting company from Bangalore last week. What it does is, it says that in India, there are enough engineering shops available, enough machine hours available, which are lying idle. So I'm going to aggregate the available engineering hours in small and medium manufacturing units and aggregate them and present it with some kind of rating and quality check to a global audience. They are early stage startup, but doing extremely well. Why? Remember I said, what is not going to change in next 10 years? What is going to change? What is not going to change in next 10 years? Europe is going to become extremely expensive to manufacture. US is going to be expensive to manufacture. Europe is going to be extremely expensive to manufacture. Labor costs are going to shoot up. People don't want to work in factories there. So automatically businesses will come here. Okay. Digital India, Make in India, all of those will help. But the fact that we have resources here, we can import the best of the equipment, we have labor at a low cost, and we can make products, refined products to international standards is definite. So this company is doing that. So each one of this is a fantastic and great opportunity. In short, I am very confident the next 10 years really belongs to us. And it's needed. Employment gets generated from this sector. Employment comes because of small and medium entrepreneurs, startups trying to do something new. It's not going to come out of traditional sectors. Traditional sectors will automate, will face a declining employment. Employment will come out of this. And you can see that today. I mean, most of the new jobs in Bangalore has got created by Big Basket, Swiggy, Zomato, drivers. And this. It doesn't come out of employment in manufacturing sector. Each of this is a major employment driver. So India needs you to step up just for the sake of employment. Of course for exports, of course for GDP, all of that is important. But with the young people coming up, the employment has come from this sector. It's a great opportunity. VUCA world has leveled the playing field for each one of us. If you are agile, if you are willing to learn, look at where the world is going, ride on the bandwagon, and do everything possible to latch on to secular trends, trends that are happening, that are irreversible, that will capitalize on. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to take a couple of questions if there are any. Yeah.
Excellent talk, very, very enlightening. You are about Big Basket and you are from the 90s. I have enjoyed these two. I would like you to just tell us something more. I'd like you to tell us something more about your comparison of India with China. The opportunity there, you are talking about opportunity, manufacturing from Europe going to India, whether it will go to China, and they are already producing in millions. So please tell us more about that and what you think about it.
Yeah, so I'm not the expert on China, but the clear trends are this. China is not liked by most people. China is not trusted by most people because of various things that has happened in terms of secrecy, in terms of security of data. So right from US to India. So there is a wave sentiment against China, against Chinese suppliers, against dependence on China for all the right reasons that we have seen in the past. That has given us what is known typically as China plus one strategy for everybody. You can see Apple, for example, they want to ensure that they are not doing everything in China, even if it's the cheapest and the best from a commercial point of view, because it is too much of a concentration risk and it's an unreliable risk. When there is a problem, you don't know what's happened. And it has happened at multiple levels. Spying espionage is one. The way Chinese government has clamped down on US listed companies is two. They have what they did to Alibaba, which is their own company, because of political compulsions or whatever, is make them very unreliable and untrustworthy to bank upon. So that has given rise to China plus one strategy. Now, where else can you manufacture? Taiwan is there, Vietnam is there, and manufacturing India is there. India has got size and scale of a large number, and India has shown through multiple governments, through COVID, through ups and downs, that it is reliable, can be trusted upon. So that is how you see so much of manufacturing thing coming in China. We have a lot more to do. I'm not talking about the challenges and other things that we need to do. Like we say, because I'm a professor, that is out of syllabus for this particular for this particular talk. But definitely the opportunity is huge for us to capitalize on, and driven by anti-China sentiment, which is not our own doing, but which has really helps us. How well we capitalize in the next 5 years and take a lion's share vis-a-vis Vietnam and other countries is important.
Just to add to that,
Yeah.
thing is, in spite of all this, in spite of the fact that,
Go ahead, I can hear you. Huh.
in spite of the fact that, China is not trusted around the world, still our steel imports today, if you look at JSW Steel or Shimmer Steel imports, we have reported in the last couple of years, Businessline itself has brought out an article stating that our, the deficit, whatever we are exporting is much less than what we are importing.
Yeah.
In spite of that, we are not competitive. That's the unfortunate problem. So I don't know, even America or Europe, they cannot just do without China. That's what we're talking about BYD. That's what I just wanted to know.
No, absolutely true. We have to, it will not happen overnight. We have to reduce dependence on China. We have to find alternatives, and that is a risk. Fortunately, everybody is aware of, which will work in the favor. But before we can write off China, or before we can stop, boycott China, would be very difficult. And not only that, this nationalism and polarization does exist. We also want that. We don't want any superpower to be there. Between Russia, between US, between China, there needs to be enough balance so that we are also able to get things on a competitive basis, like the way we do trade with Russia to keep it at balance. Sorry, just use the mic, please.
My name is Prabhu. I am representing the micro industries. I am from Tumkur. Regarding you told that ONDC service, ONDC is available only in the metro cities. As on today, we do not get any service from the 2-tier and 3-tier cities. That is what we approach them and all that. So what I request you, being a popular man and also your children, you can prevail upon that so that micro industries also can use that ONDC service.
No, absolutely agreed. I think ONDC, we are still seeing early days. There are challenges to ONDC which are still being ironed out. Obviously, right now people are focused because it requires multiple, unlike Flipkart or unlike a horizontal integrated platform, ONDC requires multiple disaggregated players to work together. It needs to be smooth, the kinks need to be smoothened out, but be rest assured it will happen. It's a force that is in benefits everybody. It benefits the consumer, benefits the seller, and government is doing this interoperable protocols, infrastructure layer that's building, automatically it will happen. Just, it's easier for UPI or for fintech to be adopted nationally at nook and corners because it's purely digital. ONDC has got a layer of physical delivery and physical transaction that needs to happen. Therefore, the spread to tier 2, tier 3 will take time, but 100% it's happening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have never been referred as Gen Y, but thank you.
Range, yeah, right.
Range, yeah, it's a very large range, but it's okay.
Yeah. So successful. I've been tracking you from the Minerva, circle days. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, what do you attribute as the key biggest challenge for the Gen Z people like you?
For the Gen Z people. Biggest challenge for the younger people.
Yeah. MSME Gen Z.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I think MSME Gen Z, the biggest challenge is the rate of change that is happening. Okay, right? The rate of change is phenomenal. The technology change, the ability to keep up with that is the biggest challenge. In my first business, when I started IT&T that you talked about, we were in computer maintenance. Even though computer was changing, computer maintenance was a very dull, boring business. Okay, right? Whereas today, any business, you have to look left, right, center, competition coming from anywhere, technology change, consumer habit changing. Each one of it changes the thing. I think the biggest change is, the biggest challenge is that, and the answer to that is be agile, be watchword. You can't start an ancillary unit like we used to do earlier and say, I'll manufacture next 20 years, I'll supply to TVS Motors, and I'm done. My next generation also will join me in supply. So you have 2 generations, 3 generations supplying to Tata Motors, supplying to this and all that. Those are few and far between. Today's Gen Z MSME businesses, left, right, and center, competition from unrelated industries, technology change making you obsolete is the biggest challenge that we need to do that. No, after that is a very interesting story. Yeah, the story that happened was the reason why nobody wanted it is because they never thought Indians will buy fruits and vegetables online. You know, we are all used to touching, feeling. My mother did not buy for the first 18 months. She did not buy from Big Basket. She used to go and buy because it's something she's feeding her children. Therefore, it needs to be chosen personally and all that stuff. Then suddenly she got one and she said, oh, this is better than what I used to choose. I said, yeah, it's because somebody else is choosing it, it will be better. Then she became a convert, okay, right, after 18 months. So there was a lot of resistance to funding Big Basket because Indians will not buy. Buying books is okay, buying shampoo is okay, buying soap is okay, buying this is not okay thing. Second reason was that if you are familiar with it, the biggest .com failure in the world, biggest .com failure, was a company called Webvan in the US, which was an e-grocery company. Okay, about 15, 20 years back, funded by the top venture capitalists, largest fund, it crashed badly. So whenever you used to Google e-grocery, that's what all these investors did. E-grocery, the first thing used to come was Webvan biggest failure. They said if in US with the biggest funder, top venture capital doesn't work, how will it work? That's how it's been there. Finally, in funding, what happens is, it doesn't matter if 22 people say no. You require only one person to say yes. It is just like dating and marriage. It doesn't matter how many people. You think I could have got married if the first person said yes? I have met more number of girls than finally one person said yes and got married. Okay, right? So the same thing happens. That is what happened. The interesting story, it happened, the way it happened was, I was sitting on a flight from between Bombay to Bangalore, and next to me was this venture capitalist who was sitting, and the fasten the seatbelt sign was on. So both of us could not go to the loo also. Okay, so both of us were stuck with each other next to next. And as usual, as an entrepreneur, I opened my laptop. I said, since you're sitting, why don't you look at this? Okay, he saw this, and he says, okay, it looks interesting and all that stuff. So that he converted. That was it was a private equity firm called Ascent Capital. Private equity firm never does venture capital investment. This was the only time they invested in technology. They do airports and infrastructure projects. This was the earliest ever check they have ever written. This was the first check they have written. It's the lowest check they have written. Okay, they made all the exceptions. because of that 2-hour flight which we could not move, I was able to eat their head off. Partly, I think it's because he wanted to get rid of me. So he said, he said yes. So one of the ways to succeed is by being a pest, so that people will tire out and say yes. Okay, right? So they said yes. But the story went on very well. They returned their entire fund, full fund, out of the returns of one investment. Okay, right? That is the success. Thank you very much. Okay, lovely speaking to you. All the very best. Thank you, Hindu Business Line. Thank you, Venkatesh, for having me here. All the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, please remain on stage. We have something for you. But firstly, a big round of applause to sir for that very stimulating address. Thank you so much for your valuable insights and your valuable time, sir. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for gracing this occasion. I'd like to invite Mr. Vinay Kamath on stage to please felicitate our chief guest, Mr. Ganesh.
Ideas. So if any entrepreneur here takes up any of these ideas and they monetize it, since it was said as the Business Line conclave, we get a share of it.
Thank you so much, sir.